to split an image in PhotoFusion, you simply click on it, which opens up the toolbox. You move your mouse over the splitter here, and by pressing the mouse button down and dragging to the right, you'll see that I can control the number of splits like this. If I keep holding the mouse button down and drag the mouse down instead of left and right, I'm adding horizontal splits. When I release the mouse button, you'll see that I've cut the image up into these parts. And all of these frames are independent. I can pick them up and rotate them and scale them as I like. What I'm going to do is undo to get back to where I was and give you an example of how you would use this tool. I'll take these 4 images, right click and say merge them, and then pan it to come back to where it was. And I'll take everything in the composition except this frame. I did that by control clicking on it. And now these are all selected. I'm going to press and drag on the split control, and I'm going to split them all into 4. So now we're starting to get a fair number of frames. Finally, just for this effect that I'm after, I'm going to click on Jumble, which will take all of the frames in the composition and randomly scatter them around. Maybe what I'll do is get this back up to vertical. I can do this manually as I'm doing it. I can also press Control Page Up to snap it to be perfectly vertical. This is just an example of a look that you can achieve easily using the split control. So let's look with a little bit more detail at other uses of it. I'm going to say add a blank page and give you an example of how you would work with this splitter as a compositional tool. I'm going to begin, let's say, with a 2-page album spread. I'll do that by saying I want a 20 by 10 2-page spread. And I'm going to create a composition where I've got a single large frame on one side of the album. I did that by pressing the F key and dragging to produce the large frame. And I'm also going to press Ctrl D and bring that single large frame onto the other side. To use the splitter effectively, I'm just going to move over the splitter and drag to the right, and then with this frame still selected, drag down, let's say cutting it into thirds. Over here I'll cut this one into halves, and just as quickly as that I've created a useful composition. And if I were to go off and grab a series of images and drop them into the layout like this, I very quickly put together an album. Perhaps I would change my mind and choose this image here, and finally let's put this image into the background and make it a little bit blurry. So with a few clicks and the use of the splitter, I've created an album page very quickly. Now there are a couple of things that I would have changed about this. I find the borders a little bit too disruptive. I will select everything and drag the border control to the left, which thins the borders quite a bit. And now finally, they're very close together. I can change that for everything by holding the control key down and dragging the border. And what this does is it increases the inset between frames. There's another way to split. Instead of dragging this control interactively, I can click on it, which brings up a dialog allowing me to set the number of splits directly. For example, I can drag this to the right and drag it down, and this is going to create 6 times 9 is 54 spaces. An example of why you would use this is to create a class composite. So let's just do that quickly. I'll click here and say that I want to create a new blank project. I'll work with a 36 by 24 inch image. And I'll start by creating a single large frame. I'm holding the F key down to create a single large frame. And now when I click on it, I want to cut this up. I would do some math in my head. I've got, let's say, 43 students in the classroom, so I could do that by creating a 7 by 7 grid, which is going to create 49 spots for me. And now I would need to select all of these frames and reshape them a little bit. So I'll just hold one of the keys down like this, and perhaps populate it with some school imagery. Just take all of these images and drag and drop like this. I can drop them one at a time or click Auto Populate. And this was an extremely fast way to create a class composite by adding a few more details, such as a paper in the background and some text on everything, which I can do by saying Select All, Control A, and then Add Text. I've now got the beginnings of a class composite. I can say put the file name, and because each one of these images was named after the student, it allows me to just very quickly there is a class composite in a few seconds, and it was made possible with the use of the split tool.